gets a goal? Who got the assist? Who got the assist?
Greetings and sisters. So after the fun of Christmas comes what, for many, was the opposite of fun. This putative round of Boxing Day fixtures has brought. As a damp squid on the day, the Man Utd and Newcastle game led into the Harlem Blank, which in of itself, I'm sure, flattened the scores, as like many of us may have been flattened too after the festivities. Back at you on a Saturday, unusually, as selfishly I'm off to the in-laws tomorrow for, Sam, our final pod of 2025. How are you, mate? Had a good Christmas?
Yeah, I'm feeling festively plump. I need to definitely get out and go for a few kilometers on the roads tomorrow morning to burn off all the extra calories. But yeah, it's great to spend time with the family, switch off for a little bit. Caught most of the football because we are a football loving family. So yeah, it's pretty much the best time of the year with all the football going on in the background. So yeah, no complaints from me. Very happy and very content with all of the extremely Moorish food that I've had in the last few days. So yeah, if I'm a bit lethargic, please excuse me. That is why. It's not because I'm too drunk or anything. I'm just really knackered from all the food and everything like that. So yeah, hopefully we can make it through today all right. I think you're probably the same. And as always, we are Who Got the Assist. On today's agenda, we will try to preview the next 2 weeks as far as we can. Very quick turnarounds anyway. So we're going to have to make the very best of it. And game week updates so far. Tom is all out. I've got one player, I think it is, to go tomorrow. That's Lacroix. So fingers crossed for a double-digit haul from him. He laughs quietly. Review where we are in the calendar so far. Obviously, we've got a number of game weeks back to back still. So figure out how we're going to survive the next few weeks. And then, of course, we also need to talk about the return of Gabrielle. Do we make a beeline for him straight away, or can it wait a few weeks? Form versus fixtures makes a return. A few items on the agenda there we may have already talked about, and then a double helping of 1 week punts and captaincy over the next 2 game weeks before chatting through our sides. Obviously, again, looking ahead for the next couple of game weeks. It is Saturday, weird one. We never record on a Saturday, but Saturday, the 27th of December. We've still got Sunderland, Leeds and Palace Spurs tomorrow. And unusually, we are recording, as mentioned, halfway through, or I guess 3/4 way through the game week. But Tom, you're already all out. So shall we have a look at your team first?
Yeah, let's do it. So a very unusual game week. Nothing on Friday.
Yeah.
So basically started at lunchtime today. And it was all out by the end of the 3 p.m. So it all basically came down to what would happen in the space of 5 hours. It's looking like I'll get a green arrow. I'm 9 points, so 7 points are above safety. After today's proceedings with 50 points. So just outside, I think I'm going to end up just outside top 100k. But obviously, yeah, quite good. Basically, I was a little bit worried about, I'm still a little bit worried because I think the main rank threat is like Gahey and the Palace defense, but Chalobah and the Chelsea defence and Rodgers tonight was obviously a huge concern for me, and that 2-1 was the best result we could have had. Honestly, a Villa win at Chelsea, in which Chelsea defence concedes twice, Chalobah and Rodgers with no goal involvement, both get yellow cards. That was chef's kiss. So really useful. So yeah, 50 points for me. Big stars were Tarkowski again. This man, he is the cockroach with a star on his back. What a legend he is. I'm never going to squash that guy. In midfield, Semenyo with the consolation, I guess, for Bournemouth, and having two bonus in the process. Saka with an assist, but assist with 2 bonus points attached to it, so a 5-point assist effectively. Up front, Ekatike, who came in as we trailed last week for Gu, got an assist. Thiago got an assist. there's no chance he was getting anything for that rather spectacular own goal. I was hoping that, you know, I could get something out of him to make it even more worth keeping hold of him. But yeah, but Bournemouth posted a ridiculous XG. I'm pretty sure I saw there 1.4 XG to the good after 20 minutes. So hopefully more of the same against Spurs, and he's more kind of over it. But yeah, 50 points, 7 above safety. Hopefully not too much damage tomorrow, but we shall see. Hopefully I can kind of just about squeak out green arrow. I'm happy with it. What about you?
Green arrow. It'll be a green arrow, definitely. You're 9 above safety, and with like about half a player left, I think, on live FPL. It's like 3/4 of a player, maybe. So I think if you're over 5 ahead of safety, you'll probably be okay. Which means how many green arrows in a row now?
This is number 13.
Bloody hell. That is crazy. 13 in a row. Ridiculous.
Mad.
That is a hell of a run of form, mate. Well done. I am a little bit further back, 42 points, but with 1 player to play. So Lacroix tomorrow. I mean, who knows? If he can sneak a DEFCON clean sheet, then I'll be up around 50 points as well. That would be lovely, although not holding out too much hope at the moment. But it is technically a very small green arrow at the moment. 42 points is just very marginally above the safety score. I'm up about 5k, 6k so far after the auto subs. That is Anderson coming off my bench, the Elliot Anderson, that is, with a DEFCON and yellow card. I think he picked up 20 DEFCON from surprising Timber withdrawal. So he was nowhere near the squad. Don't know whether or not he's going to be back for the next one. So I'm going to have to keep my ear to the ground on that one. Bit frustrating. And I actually, weirdly, I don't know how I didn't really clock this, but Timber's putting up 0.30 XGI per 90 this season. I haven't got a single goal from him so far. Like, because he got both in that Leeds game before I bought him.
Yeah, he did.
I've had him for like 10 weeks, and he's put up in that time like another 2 XG, and I've not gotten anything out of him. Very frustrating to own him. I might as well just own Raya, to be honest. But anyway, it ended up a back 3 with him coming out of the side. O'Reilly got a yellow, so nothing from him. Anderson also got a yellow, but luckily kept the clean sheet. No DEFCON though. Into my midfield, Cunha was my replacement for Bruno. Quiet game from him and picked up a yellow, which is just fantastic. And Semenyo, Saka, same as you, both picking up a couple of bonus points and a goal for Semenyo, assist for Saka. Kelleher was on for a 9-10 pointer. If it wasn't for the Semenyo, I am just very grateful that at least it was Semenyo, not anyone else. Given I own him, but it would have been nicer to keep the Kelleher clean sheet intact, because that would have been more beneficial with his effective ownership. But still, Semenyo scored, and then up top I replaced Thiago with Ekatike. They both leveled each other out, so an assist each. So 42 so far. One player left to play. Just feels like I'm in purgatory a little bit at the moment, not really going that far, up and down by about 5-10k a week for the last few. Need to really push on, hopefully. But there we are, 42, 1 to go.
I think after the 8-pointer from Lacroix, you'll be all right. So it's kind of, I think,
unless He also gets another goal or something.
I know, but you've got even more cover than me. I'm completely exposed. So yeah, I mean, it'll be what it will be. I'm pretty sure you probably just shave one. We'll definitely speak about that in a bit, actually, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people. I mean, we've spoken about survival the last couple of weeks already, but I suppose there'll be quite a few people who have got the similar sort of outlet to you right now. That how am I going to try to make some headway here? I'm feeling a bit stuck with it. What can I do? And I think we can definitely kind of discuss that when we look in the calendar and figure out exactly what we're going to do at the moment, how we max this whole situation, because we're still going to bang on about it. The New Year calendar, where we are now. So as you said, we're back to back now. One back has been removed, much to Sir Mix-a-Lot's disdain. But yeah, I mean, we're already seeing kind of rotation, injuries bite. Timber, a notable casualty today. We also saw Vandenberg at Brentford failed to appear, which definitely did hurt a few people. He was like on the list for me as being like kind of like one of those solid sort of players who are going to be just, you know, in my team, on my bench, you know, one of the candidates to come in. So yeah, there's gonna be a few who have been kind of hurt by that a little bit. There can be some bench jam out of that as well. And yeah, as it is, we've got teams apart from Palace and Spurs and Leeds and Sunderland embarking on varying levels of breaks now. So a couple of days for Arsenal and Villa, a couple of days for Everton, Fulham, etc. And others like Brentford, Liverpool, and City have got 4 days. So I suppose it's going to be more of the same for the next little while, isn't it, Sam? We're still going to see some unexpected surprises come in store for us managers as we head into 2026.
Yeah, it's that annoying time of the season where you have to kind of expect the unexpected. You don't know precisely which players are going to get affected here. Even the 90-minute men, like we mentioned last week, Bruno can just go down with a random injury, and that could, like, a minimal injury could be 2-3 game weeks out at this point. Timber being out would normally not, I wouldn't be massively concerned by it because he'll likely come back in a week and it'll be fine. Who knows? He might be even okay for Aston Villa, but given the tight turnaround, he's got another 2 games to go within the space of the next 7 days. If it's anything even like slightly worrying for Arsenal, they're not going to be able to play him in either of those. And that's 3 game weeks missed for him all of a sudden. So yeah, a little bit more depth. There's an element of randomness with these injuries, and therefore a lack of control needs to be accepted by all of us, I would assume. But yeah, having a little bit of depth, try to rely on the regular 90-minute men as much as possible. But yeah, even so, like, you can still get bit by it. It's not impossible that random players just drop down. And I think we've gotten through today relatively unscathed. I don't think there were too many players that seemingly went off injured today. I was trying to keep track of as many as possible. I think Ekatike came off limping a little bit, but I'm given the turnaround, I think that one's probably okay, and we should hear more. Any others I've missed from today? I mean, Grealish had a bad hangover by the looks of it, didn't feature, so who knows what's going on there. Any others?
No, I think it's more of yellow cards, wasn't it? So Elliot Anderson going up to 4, Harry Wilson going up to 4, and then because we had a few, we were just having a chat before we started, didn't we? So Bruno G, Semenyo on 4, and then there's a few others, isn't it? I can't remember. Is it Canate and I can't remember.
Tarko.
Oh, Tarko, bloody hell, yeah, I own that guy. So what's he going to miss now? So just something to be aware of. There are the little status updates now on the of FPL, which is quite good. But it's not very long, is it, at all? Is it literally next week?
Yeah, we've got the 1 week to go. So survive game week 19 and you're in the clear. If they get the 5th yellow in 19, then they'll miss game week 20. But yeah, I think any players on 3 yellows now, unless they're playing tomorrow night and might still bump one up, you're pretty much okay. So yeah, just keep an eye out on the players we've just mentioned. Double check one of the very reputable apps out there that all have the 4 yellow cards on there. So yeah, you'll be able to find the information quickly enough. And I'm sure you're already well aware if one of your players is on 4 yellows. I think the new entry today the new entries were Wilson, which I didn't actually realize being a non-owner, and Anderson as well for me. Outside of that, I don't think too many others have got within 1. I think Cash and Kamara hit the 5 today. So against Arsenal, maybe that helps Arsenal out a little bit. I don't know. But yeah,
I suppose also, like, on the other side of it, and we'll talk about him in a bit, but spots like coming off the 5th yellow as well. It's quite good because they've kind of had the enforced rest, and then you'd be we're not probably not sat there second guessing when's he going to have his rest, because he's really kind of had one. Looking at the calendar as well, what kind of strikes me is we'll be back on Sunday the 4th of January, so that'll be the very end of game week 20. That's the time, I think, when hopefully all this randomness will kind of really culminate, because that'll be when you've got the 2 days between fixtures for pretty much all teams apart from Arsenal, Liverpool, I think it is. Maybe there's a couple of frees in there somewhere. And I think that might be, I think the kind of next 2 fixtures, I mean, maybe we're just saying this because we're not going to be around for the next one when we maybe would be, but I mean, it's New Year's, and who's going to be podding then? I think we did last year, actually. But hey, I'm away, so I can't do it. Selfish, I know. But I think the next 2 probably do go together as quite a nice little pair, don't they, in terms of, I guess, lending themselves to what we're talking about in terms of that survivability and just kind of getting through it almost. I know we've kind of end up reiterating what we said last week and what we said with Mark, but I mean, is going to be, and I think Arsenal as a football team are very similar to that at the moment. If you've seen the highlights from the Brighton game, and you've obviously seen what we've done recently against Everton and Wolves, I really feel like we should be thinking of ourselves like Arsenal right now, just clinging on to whatever we've got and just trying to make it through with either celebrating the big W's, whether we can get a nice green arrow, or if it hasn't quite worked out, celebrating the small ones, because the saving grace of all of this is it's literally just a day away until the next deadline. So you haven't got that long to ponder on it before it comes through. I don't know how much more we can say on this one, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think at this point, it's have a plan in place. Like I think we said it at the start of last week or before last game week. It's try to have a bit of a solid plan ready to go into this period where I think my transfers are going to be best placed, where the fixture swings come over this little period. But first and foremost, just try to survive it, get through it as best you can, have a couple of transfers spare if you can possibly do so. I know it's not possible for everyone because of injuries, because of suspensions, but again, it's preparing for the unknown that I think is the key here, and being able to react quickly between 19 and 20 and then on to 21 as well, I suppose, because a new game week of information will bring its own problems. Players will go down injured, players will get suspended, form picks will come and go very quickly. Absolutely. It's important not to overreact to the more subjective elements, I think, like form, but maybe just have those transfers spare for the more urgent repairs that are needed, just to make sure that you kind of patch your 11 up week on week to make sure you can get through it with a fairly robust team.
Yeah. I suppose this, because we don't need to reiterate all this again. I suppose maybe you mentioned earlier on about being stuck with FPL and what to do. Is this the time? I don't know, man. I just kind of, obviously it's kind of rich for me to say because I've had a fairly good kind of couple of months, but part of me does wonder if this is just the time for getting through almost. And not that you would, but I suppose if anybody else out there is feeling a bit stuck with FPL right now, I'm not 100% sure this is the time to be forcing transfers. So for example, what I could have done this week was moving Semenyo out for Verts for a hit. A transfer like that would definitely cross my mind to chase kind of potential upside in my head. But what would have probably happened? It wouldn't have been washed its face. I'd have been down on the deal, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I think what it's got. Did you get
10 versus 9?
Yeah,
but minus the hit, you'd be 3 down.
3 points down, and that's exactly it. Like, there are times to be kind of super aggressive with FPL. I just think in a time when you've got ridiculous sort of levels of turnaround, much like the 3 game weeks in a week that we get around sort of game week 14, 15, it does feel like this is just the time to batten down the hatches and, I don't know, just go with defense mentality in Football Manager parlance, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is always space for upside picks, but it's, do they tick off certain parameters for me anyway at this point in the season? Like, can I trust them to also play the minutes, or am I just out there trying to spike a 1 week haul and then have to move them on? Like, how quickly can they become a problem? I went for Ekitike because with the Isak injury, I felt like it's unlikely he becomes an urgent problem, even if he doesn't do well in the first of those fixtures. He's got a 4-day turnaround, and then it's on to Leeds after that. Sorry, not Leeds after that. No, it is Leeds, isn't it? Wolves, then Leeds, then Fulham. Yeah. So he's got 4-day turnaround. He should be okay, and he should get good minutes in the next match as well. So although it felt like, I'm chasing an upside on a player, which actually ended up on 80% effective ownership, which we should probably discuss. It still felt like a robust enough pick for the next few game weeks. And I still think there are opportunities to chase even now, but make sure that the transfers hit those kind of stress tests, I guess, to make sure that, okay, 2 weeks down the line, if I get 5 other problems with my team and I need to use those transfers elsewhere, can I hold on to that player in a worst case scenario? Semenyo was one of those a couple of weeks ago. Like, I wanted to sell him maybe even after 1 week before the Brentford game, but could I survive the Brentford game with him? Absolutely. If I needed to play him in the Chelsea game after that, could I play him? Yeah, because he'll get 90 minutes. He's potentially on penalties. He's got decent data. So you can have a plan to move players in and out, but are you ever going to hate owning them after like a week or two? That would be my question on whether or not they're worth it at this time of the season.
I suppose it depends as well on your free transfer situation a little. Like there were obviously I went off and spaffed all 5 free transfers immediately. Oh, there's a marshmallow. I'm going to eat it. Whereas there are probably a lot of people who are a little bit more careful, who may now have that capacity, that latitude to be a little bit more punty, with a few picks over kind of a 1 week or 2 week situation. Like a player like Verts, just pick him up for Wally and then forget about it after that. I mean, that's absolutely fine if you do want to do that. But I think you're right that overall, perhaps it's kind of good to, if you end up basically with what I in the old days called a differential by mistake, i.e. one of those players that you kind of plan to have for a short space of time, but just because other things have happened, you've ended up having to keep them. Make sure these are players that, they are not a Huang of the world, that literally are there to do a job on 1 week. They are there that, if you do transfer them out, you're going to be okay with it. But if they do stay, you're going to be okay with it as well. And I think that, you're right that a player like Semenyo is right in the Goldilocks zone for that. But I do think generally, like, this probably isn't, and we'll talk about in captaincy as well, the time where I'm going to be Hail Marying it, and maybe that's going to be to my detriment. Maybe I'll find that I'll have a stonking red arrow 1 week, because you'll find that there's kind of a B pick which has gone really well that I've completely missed, or there's something along those lines. That could well happen. But right now, just because it's been working and it's not the sexiest approach in the world, but just playing logically and playing calmly and just trying to be a bit more Mark. Not Mark this year, but Mark in the old days, and obviously be more Sam, be more Pricey. I always have what would Pricey do in my head when I'm trying to make decisions. All of these things kind of help just a little bit, just steer you through. Yeah, some weeks going to be a bit meh. Like this week's been a flat line, and I think that's kind of probably a bit universal. And there are a lot of people looking at the sentiment online, and also looking at FPL Gameweek, who are all out on not the best score in the world, but hey, a lot of it's just cosmetic, isn't it? Because the likes of Haaland and Foden blanked, and suddenly, we've got a week where you're scrabbling around the edge, hoping new edge pieces come through.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a low scoring week because Haaland's effective ownership's 180, Foden's is 80, Ekitike's was 80, in fact, as well, and Arsenal's defense is well owned as well, and none of them have really put up big scores. So we're all in the same boat in that sense. I wouldn't worry about the actual output for the score, because the scores across the board are fairly low. If you've spiked 1 or 2 of the differentials this week, then you're laughing. So yeah, I'm just hoping tomorrow my Lacroix pick is that differential spike, but it could just as easily be DCL. It could be Gahey. It could be one of enter 10 other players. It could be Van der Ven again. Who knows? So yeah, you've got to try and spike those little odd differential hauls in a week like this. I haven't yet, but who knows? Maybe tomorrow's the night.
Needs more taco. That's what I'm saying. All right. Speaking of of defenders who are units, the eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted a very large Brazilian man, not Mario, but kind of a taller Brazilian man coming off the bench for Arsenal. That is Gabrielle, who, if injury didn't happen in that needless friendly, it's fair to say we'd all own in our teams anyway over this Christmas period. And I suppose it's kind of worth kind of just pondering for a minute on whether we make a beeline for Gabrielle. I think this kind of maybe slightly in front of the in front of the train, which I'm sure is going to depart if he does appear in the next game, albeit it is against Villa. So it's not as if it's a game that you'll be kind of thinking, oh, that's a must-own Arsenal player for. Only kind of just on 20,000 transfers in for Gabrielle. So people aren't sat there going, oh, I want a bit of the Maggle Hayes magic in my life. Is it worth it? So, I mean, the next 5, Villa at home, Bournemouth away, Liverpool at home, Forest away, Man United at home. So I think 21-22 is fine. The next 3, I'm a little bit iffy on, Sam. And, you a lot of people I suspect will be maybe troubled up in Arsenal already. So I have the likes of Nkapi, Timber, Calafiori, will be putting them kind of alongside. When Calafiori's obviously missed out today due to an injury picked up in the warm-up. Timber didn't show up, so maybe that's a straight swap for people. The only other stat I've got, apart from Gabrielle's kind of ludicrous kind of set piece potential, is that with Gabrielle, our XGC per 90 is 0.57, and without it's 0.66. So there it's just a small sample size, obviously, but this year it seems to have made a little bit of a difference. I'm sure it would be the same if we look back in the past. I mean, is he a player that you're looking to buy in straight away?
Well, I think for his price, he's probably one of, if not the best pick in FPL this season. So as soon as he's fit, I want this man in my team immediately. He's actually at a fairly decent price right now because he's dropped a few. I think he's 6.2. So yeah, perfectly reasonable purchase price. Obviously, the DEFCON helps as well on top of the attacking threat, and Arsenal are slightly better defense with him in it. So yeah, ticks a lot of the boxes. I guess for me, it's timing. Are you so convinced on the Arsenal defense that it doesn't really matter who they're playing? You still want them. And if you're a model-led manager, if you're looking at the market odds as well, so Solio, Review, wherever, I think most of them would, as soon as this man is fit, it will almost, I haven't checked this, but I'm going to pretty much guarantee it, they will basically tell you buy this player immediately, no matter the fixtures, because the models, the markets all rate Arsenal defense so highly that even Liverpool at home will be a 30+% chance of a clean sheet. Plus, on top of that, he's got the goal threat, he's got the DEFCON. So yeah, I think if you've got the spare transfers and you want to get ahead of the game, if you wait until game week 21, which is probably the more obvious pickup point for an Arsenal defender, where the clean sheet odds probably do start increasing quite dramatically, you might have to pay an extra 0.3, 0.4 million for him. But I think you could arguably wait if you've already got an Arsenal defender that you think is fit for the next few. So Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool, they don't scream clean sheets in any of them. And Arsenal haven't kept a whole bunch of them recently either. Plus, we haven't seen him start yet. So who knows whether he's going to be ready to actually start the game against Aston Villa in a couple of days. And Aston Villa, again, they've won, 12 on the bounce now in all comps? Or is it 13? I don't know. I've lost track.
Yeah, they're on an absolute storm.
They are. So I don't think he's a must-buy right now. But if you want to get him at a cheap price, you're not going to get a better time than now to do so. I've got Timber. If he's out for any sort of period of matches or we get any news, which we won't because it's Arteta and he never does, but if I did hear that he was out, then I'm just going to make that move now and get it done. And then at least I've got the Arsenal defensive coverage sorted with one player rather than going into this patch with none of them. But I don't know about doubling up. Like if Timber's fine, I probably wouldn't want to sell Timber. Then it's a question like, oh, do I want him and Gabrielle for these three fixtures in particular when there are doubts over his fitness anyway? I would probably then wait to game week 21. So yeah, it's a tough one. How do you see it?
I think it's a really interesting sort of if A, then B. If you're in scenario B, if you're in scenario C, then D. Like it's very strange. So for me, with Raya and goal and then Hincapi, it's a case of how long do I think Hincapi, who's basically a seat warmer for Gabriel, let's be fair, how long do I think his shelf life is? Well, things have gotten a lot more complicated today because Calafiori has missed out. So could there be, there's kind of an additional space for Hincapi to play in? You know, do I take my chances once more? For what it's worth, at the moment, he's actually benched on my bus team. And how long can I do it? I do have an inkling that the best time to probably go in for Gabriel would be after this period has abated. So maybe kind of, you know, by the time he gets game week 20, right, which is literally a week away. So if that's 2 game weeks over, it's a week away. And we've seen what goes on in the Bournemouth game. Then you've got the Liverpool game in front of you to kind of just be like, oh, well, there's no point in bringing him in now. And then you get to game week kind of 22. I mean, you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll bring him in then. You know, it's kind of, game week 20. It's 22, isn't it, for Nottingham Forest? Got the numbers wrong on the graphic. But yeah, I think that's the point where I start to look at it a little bit more, maybe. But if you've got Calafiori and you don't have any other Arsenal defence and you feel like you want to cover an Arsenal defender because you don't want to have 0 because in the game the effective ownership can be quite large still, especially with Timber. How does that look? Do you just get Gabriel now? That's the one that will really kind of crunch my brain, because I'd be like, well, you're right that. And I think that kind of there's always a football manager tendency amongst FPL managers to just say, oh, he's fit, he's going to go straight back into the starting lineup, because that's what you do in football manager. Just screw the fitness report, screw anything. He'll just play for me, he'll be fine. I think that most managers tend to be a little bit more, real managers that is, tend to be a little bit more kind of careful these days with players, especially when they're returning from injury. Will Gabrielle
Yeah.
start against Aston Villa? I just don't. Currently, I can't see that happening, and I'm more than happy to kind of just give that another week, especially because it's Villa, and it is a good fixture. It's not a good fixture. It's not a good
Yeah.
fixture. You know what I said? It's not a good
They're
fixture.
a good team. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
And then you've got 2 days until Bournemouth, which is okay. If he plays that, fine. But that's lovely. But then after that, there's Liverpool, which is again quite an intense fixture. So I look at it and just think I'm waiting to after the Liverpool game. I think that's the kind of the entry point, really. And yeah, I think it comes down to what you said. It's timing. But for some people, it might be that the timing is kind of maybe now that you just take a bit of you maybe take a risk on him coming back for manager style straight away. So say Calafiori's ruled out for a while, or Timber's ruled out for a while. Do you not double down, but do you kind of just do the crab and just get the Arsenal pick you're probably going to want long term, assuming he stays fit for the rest of the season, or do you go without Arsenal for a little while until you get to that game in 22 sort of signpost and just go, right, okay, I'm going to get Gabrielle in for Forest. That's kind of a tough one for me because I've got Raya. It's kind of like, well, I'm fine benching Hincapié this week in case he doesn't play, but for other people who may think, oh crap, I need one Arsenal defender to cover the effective ownership. It's very, very tight. I just don't think I would this week, Sam. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if I'm putting myself in Arteta's shoes, given all of the defensive injuries he's already had this season, and the title charges, like, it's very much in the balance with Aston Villa and Man City breathing down their necks. The last thing he needs is to risk a recurrence. And in the post-match press conference, he did mention that he'd rushed Gabrielle back a little bit. So there was a risk today to obviously him getting any minutes. So I do sort of sit in the same camp as you, where I'm a little bit nervous about how many of these next few he even starts. He might get rushed back in and play all of them because he's a centre-back. And if there was any position where you do that with a player, it would be at centre-back in a team that is as dominant as Arsenal. But these are 3 tough, high-intensity, quick transition games where he is going to need to be on his A game. He can't afford to be anywhere near like 50 to 75% in any of these. So I don't know whether he's going to be ready to play all 3. It feels like, why would you risk it when you've got players who have been doing a pretty reasonable job anyway? And when the fixtures aren't that great, I don't know. Yeah, it makes me worry a little bit because if Timber's out as well, I might have no coverage. And now I've got myself doubting whether Gabrielle's ready to play all of these 3 matches. So maybe I can't make that transfer.
I just don't. I don't know, mate. Because you zoom out even further, right? So after the Liverpool game, then we've got Portsmouth in the FA Cup third round. Fine, okay. And then 3 days later, we've got Chelsea in the Carabao Cup semi-final. Then there's the Forest game. Then midweek, the Champions League back. Oh, hello, Inter Milan away. And then you've got Man United. And then you've got Kairat and Leeds. And then you've got Chelsea again. So
no rest.
No rest whatsoever. Very, very tight scheduling. To me, I look at it and just think, I obviously, in an ideal world, when Arsenal only played in the Premier League and it was there was a decent rest period and the team played if the first 11 was there week to week, then of course I just get Gabrielle in straight away. But I just think it's going to take a long time for him to. Well, not a long time, but I think it will take it. There's going to be a little bit of kind of lead time for him to become the monster he was at the start of the season, potentially. I mean, yes, he's superhuman. Yes, he's an absolute flipping unit. But equally, I probably am going to consider the contextual information surrounding return from injury and all this sort of thing. I know everybody else is going to be speaking about him this week potentially as well. But I would just kind of treat with suspicion anybody who kind of recommends that you buy Gabrielle now to get ahead of the curve. Could turn out to be correct. You just don't know. It is a game of opinions in some ways, but my opinion is that it's one to treat with kid gloves and just be a bit cautious of, because although we love the player, there are so many buts surrounding it that for me, I'm just not too sure right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact sort of risk we just talked about not making in the first section. Here we are discussing whether or not to just do it anyway because the upside's there. Yeah, I don't know. I came into this pod thinking, if Timber's out, I'm probably going to do this. And now I've got myself questioning it on actually, can he even start these next 3 games, let alone keep the clean sheets in them? I don't know. It feels risky to say the least, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And we'll talk about other defenders you may want to bring in. And I know that not everyone's kind of got to Arsenal like I do, with Raya and goals. So there's going to be other defenders you want to take out. We'll speak about that in a minute. But yeah, a big health warning over buying Gabrielle now. Obviously great and exciting that he's back, which is very odd to say, because normally most people we wouldn't be excited and happy that centre back is returning. But hey, there we go. Right, form versus Fitch this week. Trying to cover it for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be quite difficult. Trying to, as Sam said, anticipate those form picks that are going to show up on the radar. Some players who have just sort of blipped on, a couple of players who are returning and have got a good kind of fixture run coming. So we thought we'd try to scoop up as many as we could. There'll be a few as well who are off this. First one though is Matheus Cunha. I think there's definitely last week, on social media, people saying, "Oh, I didn't get caught up in the Cunha hype." I don't think I put it that way because there's obvious reasons why Cunha was a good pick. It's just that with all the United players who are missing, my feeling was that I prefer to prioritise Ekatike and then kind of have the door open to Cunha next week. I didn't particularly like what I saw on Friday night. I thought that he was maybe a little bit deep. I thought that playing with Sesko was a good idea. It would have been kind of quite beneficial for him. But it did sort of, I don't know, there's something about just where he was in terms of kind of on-field positioning didn't quite make me feel like this is going to be a precursor to lots of FPL points. Mount coming off at half-time as well. I thought Mount would really help him in terms of just enabling in terms of the positioning. None of that happened. And I don't know, it's Wolves, it's Leeds, it's Burnley. Those are great fixtures. So there's always sort of like, do I stick with plan A and just bring Cunha in? Or do I do an alternative route, which we'll talk about later on? But yeah, I mean, Cunha's still statting all right. Didn't obviously cover himself in glory against Newcastle, Sam. I mean, was there anything that kind of encouraged you as a newly minted owner, or were you just not sure about? Were you thinking, well, this is just a bonus match, and Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley, which are the ones which are going to be really what he's there for?
Oh yeah, I saw nothing exciting, interesting, or fun about the Newcastle game for Cunha. It wasn't his match at all. Everything you say is correct. But that again, like you say, that's not why I bought him. I bought him for the stretch, not just for this week. And for me, it was initially it was meant to be Szoboszlai first and then Cunha. Then Szoboszlai, being the legend that he is, went and got a 5th yellow card. So I couldn't buy him. So I had to reverse them, go for Cunha first. Newcastle is not a great fixture. So I wasn't expecting loads out of him. It would have been nice to get something and maybe a bit of a stronger performance, but I'm not going to start panicking on him after one quiet day at the office, after 3 in a row of him being really quite explosive, putting up great numbers. Even when Bruno was off the pitch, he did really well against Aston Villa. I'm not worried in the slightest. Wolves at home without, is it Andre who's just picked up the 5th yellow? I think. I can't remember which way around it is.
Was it Totti or was it Andre?
One picked up 5 before last week, and now there's another one. Anyway, another player's out. Not that it really matters.
It is
18 games. So yeah, you'd like to think that is a pretty good game. It's his old club. He should be on penalties. He's getting 90 minutes. The data is upticking. Leeds after that, Burnley after that. It's the 3 that I wanted him for, and I'm more than happy to own him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not happy he blanked against Newcastle. I'm not happy that he did nothing. But if there's one little silver lining there, it might put off a few managers. And now I get slightly more differential Cunha for the next 3. And that would be lovely because I think the points are still coming.
Okay. I mean, that was always my plan A. I'm just a little bit hesitating on or based on kind of what I saw. But yeah,
it's only one match though, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the difficulty, isn't it? Because you're kind of like, if you place a lot of emphasis on being like, I'm going to remove this, I'm not going to get this player this week, and I'm going to see how a team do without players who have gone away to AFCON. You set yourself up for a fall every single time. I only realised this afterwards. Where I was just like, well, what am I going to learn in one game, especially where the game state, as a few people said in the chat already, was so specific. It's tricky. I think that he last year, as I mentioned last week, was able to carry a team playing in these sort of fixtures fairly well. It's all kind of, I think I saw one United fan saying, and it was all set up to kind of be on his shoulders almost, which is, that's always a good thing because you're kind of with the proto talisman, aren't you? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm kind of torn between kind of him and a slightly cheaper option and having that extra cash to then maybe differentiate elsewhere. But I suppose it comes back to what we were saying earlier on about maybe this being the time just to kind of enter survival mode and just try to get through it regardless. And yeah, maybe, even though I'm getting him a week later and I'm still a little bit unsure about it, maybe there's going to be a positive uptick as well because other people aren't going to be going there because of, again, what they saw either with their eyes or just because of the data. I mean, he is the second highest sport player in this week, but it is quite a quiet week in terms of the underlying transfers now. I'm not sure why. Maybe because people are just too drunk after Christmas. Maybe because not much happened.
Don't realise there's another game in 2 days. Hopefully,
yeah. One of those. But if Cunha had scored, then I think that he'd be like the runaway Foden style, Ekatike style. He'd be 8.5 by now. Well, he wouldn't be, but 8.2 by now, easily. So yeah, but there's always that in mind, and then kind of move them out in a little while. But yeah, it does mess with the coffers though. I think that would mean that I can't get Gabrielle in the future for the foreseeable future, for example, which is a consideration, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's not just as simple as you must buy this man. Like he's got good fixtures. He's a decent player. We know he's got previous, but he's far from essential. So if you're sat there without him and it's route A, get Cunha, but sacrifices an extra 1.4 million over Szoboszlai when that 1.4 could get you Gabrielle in a couple of game weeks, then that's a pretty difficult decision. That 100% completely agree with you. You should really debate the paths, not just the player, because I think the player's fine, but there are other players a little bit cheaper that could allow you some other paths that might be more optimal for your entire 11. So yeah, we'll come on to Szoboszlai later. There are other cheaper options that we're going to talk about in this exact section that might allow you that route to Gabrielle. It might allow you other routes to other players I'm not even thinking of right now. Either way, that extra money is helpful. And if you're not completely sold on Cunha, then yeah, there are cheaper options at 6.5 to 7 million that are looking pretty decent as well.
I mean, all I'll say as well, and Zulu Bears just kind of ventriloquized me a little bit, is that, I mean, I'd be selling Semenyo for Cunha, right? And then we've seen tonight, Chelsea were very good in the first half, as Chewy was saying in the chat earlier on. In the second half, just, I don't know what happened. They seems to just kind of throw it away a little bit. Bournemouth, terrible in defence, but still able to attack. And there's kind of, we've spoken about Morgan Rogers already, and the fact that after the Arsenal game, his fixtures opened up quite nicely. So there could be an option to completely just forget about United, just kind of back against, just think, you know what, they're not going to be any good without Bruno, etc., and so on and so on. Let's just kind of go without Cunha. I mean, maybe that is it the third midfield spot or the fourth midfield spot, that feels like kind of the battleground a little bit, as well as if the fifth midfield spot is actually going to be your third forward for those of us who have kept Thiago. It feels like those are the ones that are all battlegrounds at the moment, and the rest of it feels quite, I don't know, the defense is always, it felt like the kind of the main sort of threat area, but it was all much of a muchness. Maybe that's an area where you could maybe kind of take a slightly different strategy without too much exposure in terms of the in terms of effective ownership, Sam.
Yeah, I think so. Like you say, I think it's that 6th, 7th attacker at the moment, where that third midfielder or third striker kind of area where you can have a bit more room for maneuver. Cunha's becoming popular, but Szoboszlai's in there, Gordon a little bit as well. Obviously, Thiago up front in different formations in the 3-4-3 also works. All of them will probably hit or maintain at around 40% ownership. Rogers, I should chuck in there as well. And actually, yeah, I think it's a pretty good idea if you're not completely sold on Cunha, and it might mess with your future plans. If you've got someone like Semenyo, wait a week, and then after Arsenal's out of the way, move for Rogers, because he's been in great nick as well. So yeah, don't mind that whatsoever. I think that's actually a pretty solid plan if you haven't seen enough to back Man United at all. And there are plenty of reasons not to. They did struggle against Newcastle. They are without plenty of their attacking firepower. They're not putting up great underlying numbers all of a sudden. So yeah, I can understand why people would go against it, but I also wouldn't let one game week against a really robust defense. Like Newcastle know how to stink out a game. Like they've done it several times this season where they've just locked it down and tried to find an edge somewhere. And we saw it 5-6 times earlier on in the season. They've not been doing it quite so often recently, but yeah, Man United didn't create a ton, but against Wolves, against Leeds, against Burnley, probably Wolves and Burnley in particular, you would imagine there are more chances. So don't completely throw him out of your thinking, anyone listening, just because of the Newcastle game. There's still potential there.
I think what worries me is that I think in the first half they definitely overwhelmed the press for Newcastle, and they definitely seem to kind of have a bit more about them. Just as you say, I think maybe Newcastle have got the wherewithal and the net better quality players to be able to kind of lock the game down a little bit. Whereas, yeah, if Wolves come up and obviously they're going to set up for straight, Are United can have the quality. Now, especially when I saw that United team, I just thought that is like missing all of those players that they're missing. It does look like a fairly mid team to say the least. But surely they can get past Wolves. I mean, surely there can never be a narrative that Wolves' defence can turn to AC Milan in the 1980s. So, yeah, it's pick your poison and try to figure that one out. I don't know. I do quite like the idea of leaving Chimendo for a week and then getting Rodgers in that slot, because I think for the longer term, like can you be in for the next 3? But for the longer term, I want Rodgers in that slot. So it's, a lot to think about over the next couple of days. Hopefully, I'll get your take a bit more in our teams in a minute. And there are a couple more players to mention. So I'm locked off of this one. You're locked off of this one. But Ryan Cherky, I'm not going to do the Christmas jokes. Everyone's doing it. It's not original. It's not funny. And I'd say a lot of unoriginal, unfunny things. And if I'm saying that, you should all take that as read. But yeah, Cherky, very, very good. Again, got a bonus the other week. Bit of an arc assister, but sometimes he just pulls these, much like Harry Wilson, absolute worldies out of the bag. I feel like he's good at that ball striking stuff that I hear all the kids talk about a lot.
Oh yeah, he's got the ball striking down to a T. Always will overperform his data because of that. He's an absolute baller though, isn't he? Like he's just magic to watch. I absolutely love it. Yeah, another good performance today. I think if he was playing for any other team, I'd probably be on him by now. I'd probably just own him because he's just so sensational to watch. In any other team, he'd just be playing 90 week on week. At Man City, though, I still look around and I'm like, yeah, but any week now he could just get benched. And I know that he's starting the majority right now, but cast your mind back a month ago and he missed 2 in a row because he just wasn't quite in favour. And they are missing some players at the moment that will come back in, will disrupt that 11. Not because he's not in the best 11, by the way, because he obviously is, but he's going to miss matches at some point, you would think. I don't think he's quite hit that point yet where he's irreplaceable. He will, at some point, just end up on the bench and frustrate the hell out of you. So if you've got a tolerance for that, I would say absolutely go for it. Not a problem, because when he's on the pitch, he will do the job. No question. But is he going to be on the pitch enough over the next 3 game weeks in this tight turnaround? I have my doubts. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to get to an ownership level where it starts punishing me, even if I am wrong just yet. But in a few game weeks' time, when the fixtures spread out a little bit better, who knows, maybe Man City get kicked out of a competition or two, then he becomes much more interesting to me, because I think he just is in their best 11. It's just about how often Pep plays the best 11.
Savinho and maybe Bernardo, who are the two who are going to...
I think Doku coming back in disrupts like a flow a little bit and moves a few pieces across. Yeah, he was out for the month, wasn't he? So we're looking at another week or 2 maybe.
Yeah, and that gives you like probably a couple of game weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Has the ship sailed
to play them all?
Yeah. Then the Pharaohs probably going to do all right in AFCON, so Marmoush should be gone for a little while. 1st of January, I mean, there may be another left winger who may be going to Man City.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's something to bear in mind. Or maybe keep Semenyo for that and have 4 Man City for a while. Hey, who knows? But yeah, I mean, that I wish I wasn't locked out, and I wish that I didn't have bloody Nico O'Reilly, that's for sure. Which I
tell
think
me
I
about
could
it.
go here. My friend the pod James Stevenson has Cherky and has enjoyed it a lot, and he's one of those players that one of those things that I really wish I could do. But yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why not. I think he's top of the transfers in by quite a way actually this week. With people still selling. I think it's a lot of people still selling Bruno, basically. But yeah, I mean, fine. Fine for a couple of weeks if you're being punty. But as a long-term pick, maybe would fall into what you were saying earlier on, Sam, about a player who probably, in a few weeks' time, you'd be like, well, probably need to sell you now, don't I? Right. Speaking of need to sell you now, don't I? Anthony Gordon / Pisshair / Lady Diana Spencer. So Burnley up next, followed by 2 home games, Crystal Palace and Leeds on penalties. But before a couple of weeks ago, when he got a 10-pointer, seemingly allergic to FPL points. Now, I had him for quite a while. Well, by quite a while, I mean 4 weeks, and that comprised of him playing playing Angers Forest, an indifferent Brighton and Fulham, and then a indifferent West Ham as well, for a subtotal of 8 points in 4 games. It was very, very frustrating. And Gordon now, though, comes off two 10-pointers in 4 games. So there's going to be a lot more interest in him with Newcastle's fixtures definitely getting a lot better over this period. I feel like they were ones that we'd circled a while back, being like, we've got this great run, similar to United, Burnley away, Palace game, but then Leeds and then Wolves. Oh, that's really interesting. I'll be there with the likes of Visser. I'll be there with the likes of Voltamade, and be there with the likes of old Pisshair. Are we interested? I feel like I'm never going to say no to a player. He's annoyed me a lot this year. But it does feel like I prefer the Cunha option, or maybe prefer the Szoboszlai option over Gordon right now. I don't know. He's on penalties, yes, but the minutes just how annoyed he made me. It's not like the reason why I wouldn't buy him, but it's a big kicker, isn't it, to the poker hand coming down on the river?
Yeah, and I think in a time like this, I always look at like the supporters. Like with Anthony Gordon, I don't watch Newcastle as closely as a Newcastle United fan would. So they're watching 90 minutes week in, week out. All of the supporters seem to be ridiculously frustrated with him. Like 1 week he's amazing, absolutely sensational, tends to be in the Champions League. And then in the Premier League or just every other week, he just is a very frustrating watch for them. And I've seen a number of them calling for him to not be in the side right now. And then when you add that onto Newcastle's league position in the table right now, Eddie Howe is under some pressure. I couldn't comment exactly how much, but we're halfway through the season and then they're not exactly pulling up trees in the league. You've got Aston Villa flying in 3rd, and Newcastle will look at that and think, well, that could be us. We've got the talent there. There's definitely room for manoeuvre in that top 4 this year, and an opportunity to grasp 4th position that they're really not taking right now. With all of that in mind, Eddie Howe's going to be under a little bit of pressure to probably mix things up and probably change things if they're not working. And right now, they're not really working. So I would be worried about Gordon's reliability over the next few game weeks. If they don't start picking up wins soon, then he could easily be back out of the side. Barnes could come back in. I know Elanga missed out this one, but I don't know how long he's going to be out for.
Who knows?
They've got enough depth on the wings that his minutes are just not secure for me. I think he played 90 this week, right? But it's not often he gets that. And if he's just played 90 and then it's a couple of days until the next one, I would not be surprised if we get to that Burnley game and all of a sudden it's like, oh, look, he's got his rest. And that would be a nightmare, because that is the one game you do want him for. With that in mind, I think it's too risky, right? I don't know how I could go there.
I'll tell you what I am interested in when he does get back in the team. Johan Wisser. I mean, just a pod favourite from last year. I think that is one that I'm definitely keeping the bed warm for, especially because I've got 3 out front and I've got Thiago still. I think that he's one that I'm keeping an eye on, see what happens. Do love Big Nick. If I had to have some Big Nick energy in my team, then I'll go there. But I do think that there may be, you see things might change. One thing maybe Watermade is a 9.5 kind of ish player really, kind of plays behind the striker. Oddly, even though Wirtz is smaller, they've kind of got a very similar skill set. So I wonder whether that might be something that Howard ends up doing. May mean he has to drop one of those kind of solid free midfielders that he always goes with. But no, as you mentioned, he's under pressure. Maybe this will be the time to do it. So when it rolls around to game week 20, and we've got that Leeds game at home, and then their good run, I think it kind of goes a bit further. I think they've got Wolves, and I think they've got Villa and Liverpool and then Brentford. But hey, I wouldn't mind kind of having Visser or something at that point potentially if he's kind of showing some form, etc., and so on and so on. Speaking of if they're showing some form, Florian Wirtz said last week, he's just doing the assist, nothing else. He's done a goal now, Sam. That's always good.
Wow.
It's his first goal in Liverpool shirt. Shockingly, it's against Wolves, but hopefully that will be kind of the way to spur him on.
He used his Wolves voucher.
Maybe people may be going there, but I mean, there is another player who mentioned earlier on coming back from suspension. That is Dominic Szoboszlai. Honestly, there's one thing I need you to try to untangle for me. I can't tell if Dom is a good FPL pick at the price or just an analytics wet dream. Like, I feel like we've been foraging around this price point. He's 6.6, right? For so long for a decent midfield option. Like the Minte was like a false dawn. You got Anderson, you got Wilson and stuff like that. And Wilson's probably all right. Anderson's all right for different reasons. Is this another one? Have we struck gold? The big benefit is he's had an enforced rest. Liverpool have just sort of scraped over the line. He's probably likely to come back in, play 90. I mean, does that sound good?
It kind of does, doesn't it? Like, the frustrating thing is it is just really boring. Like, he doesn't have a ton of attacking data. He gets defcons, but only when he's at right back, and he probably won't be that all that often. And if he's at right back, he won't get the attacking returns either. He's far from perfect, and I'm not massively excited about the move. But with all of the factors you mentioned, plus the fact that with Salah off, penalties should be secure for him, especially with Isak injured as well. There should be almost no doubt, given that he took the last one in that situation. And he's had his rest, which, again, you're trying to remove all of the moving pieces and any doubts over this next 3-game week stretch. And he should be one of the most nailed in picks, barring some sort of injury or like a red card even. I was about to say suspension, but he's just served that.
Yeah.
So, like, it feels very situational that he's ended up being quite a good pick. The stars have aligned, but the data doesn't scream exciting fantasy pick. It's just at 6.6, the fixtures are good. He's on penalties. He should get good minutes. He sometimes gets DEFCON. It's not, it's not great, but it's good enough, I think, at 6.6. And it would help me afford other things by downgrading Semenyo, for instance. Although you did mention earlier, just wait a week and get Rodgers. And actually, that sounds quite nice as well. So I don't think he's a must-own by any means, but I think there's enough there that makes him a decent pickup at that price.
Do you know what's fun in terms of the XGI per 90? He's got as much XGI per 90 as Morgan Rodgers, which sounds impressive.
Yeah,
but then he's got similar to XGI per 90 than the likes of Patrick Dorgu, Diogo Dalot, Lyle Foster, Sean Longstaff, Jurriën Timber, you mentioned earlier on, all around sort of the 0.29 sort of level. And then if you think that kind of you got Morgan Rodgers basically scoring back-to-back worldies, or back-to-back really kind of high-quality finishes, I mean, that's in Szoboszlai's locker. We know that as well. He's a bit cheaper, and he's got Leeds and Burnley in the next 4. I mean,
and the penalties.
So, I mean, 6.6, could that be the one? But I don't know. I think for my team, it could be quite helpful. But on the other side of it, it could be one of those that I buy and in a few weeks' time, like I would have felt like if I'd bought Tielemans. I'm going to say it right now, I probably would feel like if I got Paqueta this week. I mean, I feel like they're all at much of a muchness in that they could be players that I just kind of hate myself for owning. They feel it just feels a bit like, don't know, the projection isn't going to quite come out in the wash almost. But I'm not, it's not a no for me because of how good the fixtures are. And just because of the fact that at that price he could be great value, maybe not almost in himself, just what he enables elsewhere. And then, hey, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm still playing a Liverpool attack-minded player, at least in these fixtures, you know?
Yeah, I can't help but agree on all of those points. Like, it doesn't fill me with loads of hope and excitement, like making this transfer. If anything, it does feel like a bit of a downgrade from Semenyo to Szoboszlai for me. But it's then that extra money does go a long way in the next few game weeks. It enables me to get a double Arsenal defense again with Gabrielle and Timber, or I can get up to Tarkowski rather than having to go for Michael Keane, who we'll talk about in a second, but might not have tons of time left in that starting lineup. Obviously, we don't know. But yeah, like there are lots of things you can do with that extra little bit of money. So I do still feel like there's enough there to make him a good enough pick, but I'm really struggling to call it like an exciting pick. Like, you must go and get this guy.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to love, but there's enough little pieces that make him a decent pick, I think.
Yeah, I think he's a rung up from Anderson, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe. I'll talk about that in our teams at the moment. Defensive wise, I think it's worth mentioning Michael Keane, who's now absolutely destroying it in terms of defensive picks. He's actually the third highest scoring defender in the game, nearing the 100-point mark. Tarko, obviously, the DEFCON monster, Michael Keane with the goal threat as well. And yeah, absolutely smashing it at the moment. Dorgu at 4.1 and out of position. 4 yellow cards, but an option. I hate being that person who says an option because it's so uninsightful. But you know, if you need an enabler potentially, and then Josko Gvardiol, I think is definitely worth a shout as well. He's got 4 returns, be it clean sheets or attacking returns in the last 4. And City have got 3 home fixtures in the next 5, I think it is, and he just seems kind of ensconced next to Ruben in that kind of setup. Kind of he's this year sort of Laporte or Stones or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not going there, but if you do for some reason want to get a City defender, I think that he's probably the standout at the moment, and definitely not O'Reilly, that's for sure.
Yeah, O'Reilly's a frustrating one because, again, he has actually underperformed his data a little bit recently. It feels like if he just picked up 1 attack and return in the last 4 or 5 weeks, no one would even be questioning him because the minutes are still there. But it does feel like you're just missing that extra little bit to make him a good enough pick. Like, all of the other City defenders are doing something else. Like, Nunez has looked good. Gvardiol obviously is just a lock. Ruben Diaz is picking up the extra points as well. I'm looking at him and thinking, how long does he even have in my team if he's not adding some attacking threat as well? Given that, I mean, Sunderland's probably fine, if not an easy fixture. But then Chelsea, Brighton after that, it's not a great run. So I don't mind looking at moving that on, especially if it is for Gabrielle in a week or two's time. I'm not over the moon about a City defender right now. I don't mind any of them, but I don't love any of them.
I feel like O'Reilly's time in my team is it's one of those where because I haven't got the free transfer, so I can't move him on. So I'm going to begrudgingly playing him almost at the moment because there's very little sort of competition for his position. But the moment he starts to be a problem, I think he's going to very rapidly go to the sort. Oh, such a shame with him because I feel like, you know, I was looking at him as being kind of the successor to Munoz, you know, the attacking, exciting, defensive individual. And there were certain kind of glimpses of that, of course, which is why kind of, even though I had my reservations about him, that's why I went there. It just doesn't seem to have worked out, honestly. But who knows? We could be back here on the 4th of January after a couple of weeks, being like, "Hey, you know what? After the amazing kind of 50 yards lob over roofs at Sunderland, and him laying a couple on the plate for Haaland against Chelsea, we are massive O'Reilly stands. It can always swing that way in FPL. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you probably be all right with like a Keane at the moment if you're looking for a cheap enabler. I don't know. I just
how long do we give him?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'd almost be kind of just thinking, just get Alderete if you're looking for someone if you're fishing around that price, because they've got Man City in game week 19, but I mean, if you're not starting this guy, or if you're having him as part of a rotation, which you probably are at this point, then a player like that who's 4.0 is basically 0.5 discount on the 4.5 million defender, right? I prefer to just go there almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think because you've got an Everton defender, you don't mind so much. I'm looking at Everton defense right now, like I really need a piece of this very, very quickly with these fixtures. So I'm questioning whether or not I can last on Keane for long enough. Like, will it pay off? Because I do think Branthwaite eventually does come back in. It's just a question of no one really knows how quickly he can be reintroduced. Like,
frustrating, isn't it?
He's kind of training, but he's not really training with the team yet. Like, honestly, who knows? And he keeps having setbacks as well, so he might get another one. It feels like Keane's playing so well that it's hard to even drop him, even if Branthwaite does come back in. But we're looking at that from an FPL lens because Keane's smashing it in this game. From a footballing lens, I always do wonder, like, is Moyes maybe seeing something else? Like, is there something that he's like, okay, Branthwaite's still my guy. Keane is a great stopgap and he's doing really well. But when Branthwaite's back, it's going to switch again. So I do worry a little bit. And I think if I had the money, I'd just go straight to Tarkowski now, just so I don't have to ever worry about that future transfer. But again, it could look stupid because he keeps racking up the points, keeps getting DEFCON, got a bit of goal threat, and he's 0.8 cheaper. So, yeah. I think the quicker you get there, the better. If you wait to like game week 21, then it might be not too late in the sense that you won't get minutes out of him to begin with, but you'll probably only get a few game weeks out of him before he's a problem again.
I mean, this feels like the Audi version of the Gabrielle discussion, doesn't it? Almost.
Yeah.
Like, does Branthwaite come straight back in when Keane's been performing well? Probably as well. Like, I think that Everton fans are also probably they should be appreciating how well he's done. I'm sure that Sean Norton on Clash Correspondence was pretty complimentary about him. I could be making that up, but I'm sure he was. And Moyes isn't quite a Dyche where the players they're in. See John Victor, but I think that we'll probably still be okay. I can't remember when their run ends. I was looking at this earlier on. I think they do have quite. I think it's like
a long one.
It's something ridiculous, isn't it? It's like March when their run stops.
I mean, game week 28, arguably Newcastle away. 29 is Burnley at home, though. So maybe even game week 30 for Arsenal away is arguably when it ends. It's long.
Yeah. It might be worth looking at old Tarko, I think, probably, as your man. And final thing, a couple of people have mentioned the striker. I mean, I left them off here because I assume most people will be happy with Haaland and Ekatike. I suppose if the next couple of weeks, the one, I suppose most people aren't going to be, for good reason, probably not going to be looking to go back to Thiago. You are probably looking at Bowen, aren't you? Because the West Ham run is very good to game week 28. I'm just wondering at what point people have seen enough when it comes to West Ham to just think, I'm not sure. But all it will take is a couple of wins, Sam, and suddenly, by game week 21, be looking at them thinking, okay, maybe I'll have a look at Jarrod Bowen, and maybe in game week 20, if they do well against Brighton for the Wolves game away, which does seem to be quite a good game for most teams, like at Molineux, where the atmosphere is pretty sulphurous. Maybe that would be a good time to do it. I think at the moment I'm possibly going to go elsewhere with Thiago when it comes to it. But no, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are looking for a striker move, and if you can't, if Visser, for example, doesn't come around, maybe I'll be another one who just goes, you know what? Well, at least Bowen's going to play 90 because he's played every other 90. So I'll go there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think West Ham even need to be much good to make Bowen a decent pick, right? We've seen this in several seasons before. He will get the odd goal, he'll get the odd assist, and when he does, because West Ham never keep clean sheets, he tends to also get bonus as well. So yeah, he'll probably not get the same rate of returns as some other strikers, but he'll tick along nicely. And when he does, they're slightly bigger one-off returns because he gets the bonus points attached more often than not. So I think he's absolutely fine. He's never, ever a bad pick. Even with horrific fixtures, he's never a bad pick. but he's also probably never the explosive pick that will skyrocket you up the ranks. It's just someone who will tick along nicely. If you are ever in a bit of a crisis and maybe your second striker gets injured and you're looking around, you can't really see anyone that's like in any way exciting, just go with him because he'll tick along, get the odd return once every other week on average. He'll do you just fine, but not one I'm worried about not owning for the next period. I think he'll do fine, but I don't think he's a must.
Okay, cool. All right. Hopefully, I'm sure someone else will show up during the next couple of weeks, and that's probably the best we can do for now. Use your own judgment; you'll be fine. Right, 1 week punt update for the next couple of weeks. Game week 1920. This week we both went for the Everton back two. So Taco for me with 9, Keem for you with 10, 119 plays 87, and the next two I have gone for Cunha against Wolves. Obviously, why not? Let's go for the narrative pick, and then after that I've gone for Minte, who I haven't actually picked this year. I thought I was like 100% sure I had, but I checked through our notes and I haven't. I promise I didn't fiddle the notes, Sam. I haven't.
I'll trust you either way.
Who's got a home game against Burnley on the 3rd of January. So yeah, next to Cunha at home to Wolves, followed by Minte at home to Burnley.
Yep, I've gone the same 2 fixtures. I'm gonna back Dorgu to return the same way he did against Newcastle, obviously playing slightly out of position. Really would not mind him on a free hit at all this week if any of you are looking at free hitting in game week 19. So Dorgu for that one, and then on to Van Heck. So rather than backing Brighton from an attacking point of view, I'm gonna hope that he can get some def cons and a clean sheet in that one. And yeah, I've gone double defense instead of double attack for the next 2 game weeks, but same teams covered.
Good old Van Useless. All right, captaincy. You can see the bit I ran out of time on, can't you? If you're watching on YouTube, I can only apologise for this. But yeah, I've got a life. I'm really sorry.
Show off.
by which I mean I've got childcare duties. But yeah, captaincy ideas over the next couple of weeks. I mean, there are things going on in the ether, but we could be sat here micro analysing whether Liverpool or Man United at home versus Wolves and these is better than Erling Haaland away, Sunderland, giving you online data, etc. But in terms of the game, Sam, do you have any appetite to take on Haaland over the next 2?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, you could make a case for it, I suppose, this week. Like, I expect Cunha more than Ekitike because of the penalties, I would say. Like, if you buy into the narrative, if you think he'll get 90 minutes against Wolves, who look as really quite poor Premier League side at the moment, and Sunderland aren't easy. Like, they're not an easy team to break down. They've done really well at home all season. I don't hate it, but I don't think I'll be doing it. Sunderland away is good enough, and he didn't have a great game against Forest, but I didn't see anything in the last few weeks that would suggest that Cunha is a way better pick than him, even with the fixture disparity. So yeah, I mean, my vice will probably be on one of Ekitike or Cunha this week, but I don't think I'm brave enough to captain in the position I'm in anyway.
Yeah, I mean, survival mode. The survival of the rank is everything. And can I be bothered to take on the effective ownership when I don't really feel it? Like, I felt it with Saka that week, and we've got just Arsenal decided not to show up was obviously something that was difficult to account for. Do I really? Yeah, blanked again the last game. I just don't feel it. I just feel like it's just kind of forcing it a little bit, going back to what I said earlier on, and I just can't bother to take it on, honestly. If you do and you're successful, congratulations. If you don't and you're not unsuccessful, commiserations. But it's just not for me at the moment. Dan said in the chat, what if you're 1.1 million and you're chasing a little bit more, which is probably good. I need to check my privilege, Dan. Yeah. I suppose there has to be a little bit of thought put into it when it comes to captaincy. If we're saying that things have kind of stiffened up a tiny bit, if we're kind of arguing over the third midfielder / the third striker slot in terms of price, that point, I might have more of an inkling to look at TK probably this week over Cunha, just because of as an attacking unit, Liverpool still have all the pieces in place. Man United don't. Just at the Etihad, even and Chelsea, it was very difficult to look at them and think, oh, they are absolutely kind of a defensive unit who are very solid. I find that quite difficult to do. Yeah, maybe a bit more latitude to doing it this week. But in 20, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure about 20. Game week 19, maybe. I think if you're really chasing, at this point, you start trying to look for the opportunities to grab free risk a little bit. Like, what are the close marginal calls? And if most people will captain Haaland, his effective ownership will be 170, 180% this week, most ranks. If you don't think Cunha or Ekitike are far off, if you think they're really quite close and it's almost a 50-50, then it actually does make logical sense, especially if you are chasing and you do have some catching up to do, to have a gamble on the captaincy, because that's the biggest differential that you're going to be able to get in FPL at the moment, because it is quite a template 11 for a lot of people. You can kind of fight against the tide if you think that they're close. I think they're relatively close, but I don't think, given the positions we're in, I think if you're not chasing massively, I don't think you need to force it unless you genuinely believe that the other option is better than Erling Haaland. At that point, go for it. I don't, but I think it's close enough that if I was like over 1 million right now and I'm looking for opportunities to take, I guess, well thought out gambles, then maybe this is a week that you could look at it, game week 19, because the fixtures are there. Haaland doesn't have a banker this week, so yeah, maybe, but not something I'd be going out and chasing if you're not in a bad position already.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was. I wish there was more like that we could say on this at the moment. But I mean, was it Sunderland the third best defense at home in terms of underlying data? I'm fairly sure I saw that last week. Like,
yeah, they haven't played City at home though.
No, that's true. That's true. So maybe they haven't had the City tax appended to them right now. I'm just, it's not the sexiest thing to say in the world, but I'm more than happy just to not worry about this and concern myself with my team and my own plans. Segue.
Moving on.
Let's look at you first, just because you've obviously got a couple of issues that you were mentioning earlier on. The thing is, though, I mean, you flicked over to your team now. I look at it, like, before you inform me of the players that you're looking at, I'm thinking, oh yeah, you definitely need to buy those. I look at it, just think, yeah, you're probably okay to roll and bank that transfer at the moment.
It's interesting you say that. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't planning on rolling. My plan for quite a few weeks now has been, by this point, I'd have Cunha and Szoboszlai in those two positions. So originally it was Szoboszlai last week, Cunha coming in this week. I've had to reverse that. So the plan is to bring in Szoboszlai for Semenyo. Gives me, I think, 1.3 million in the bank. And then that gives me the money to upgrade a defender to Gabrielle or Tarko in the next couple of weeks. It would also mean that I've got 3 free transfers going into game week 20 as well. So I've got 3 this week. But yeah, I mean, I could theoretically roll, I suppose. There's no rush to sell Semenyo after goals in each of his last 3 games. Chelsea away, I mean, we've seen that they are susceptible to teams that break quickly, and Bournemouth are one of those. So yeah, Semenyo could do well in that. If he is even hanging around for too much longer, who knows what's going on with him? He might be a Man City player by the time we get to, is it game week 20? I imagine he could be. Yep. So might have one more week of him in a Bournemouth kit before having to worry about having 4 Man City players. Anyway, my starting 11 as it stands: Kelleher in goal at home to Spurs. Maybe not a bad fixture. In defence, it's 3-man, O'Reilly, Sunderland away, Timber, which is now a doubt. That could be a transfer out potentially, at home to Villa, and Lacroix at home to Fulham. Let's see how he does tomorrow night. In midfield, 5-man midfield of Cunha, Semenyo, Saka, Foden, and Elliot Anderson. Probably my weak point, but I'd imagine he gets 4 points against Everton. And up top, Haaland with the armband right now, Ekatike with the vice. Although I might just flip that over to Cunha for the vice, just because I doubt it will matter. But yeah, 3-5-2 at the moment. I was going to remove Semenyo for Szoboszlai to help fund future transfers, but I suppose I don't need to make that move. Could roll if Timber's okay. I've got Anderson, Fulham's Anderson on the bench away at Palace. If he is a problem. Yeah. What do you reckon?
You've got the same problem as me, which is, do I sell Semenyo? The problem for me is that I don't have the personnel in place that you do. Because you've covered yourself you've covered yourself off the Cunha, and I don't need to sell him to fund Ekatike like some might. I have to sell him to fund, I don't know, someone else like some might. I just feel like your team is really quite strong. It feels like you kind of leave it for a week and then kind of come back to it. I'm sure that I saw earlier on that Chelsea's like defense at home, their XGA is actually kind of quite mid-table, whereas Bournemouth's XG, at home, and Bournemouth's XG away is really high, but comparatively high. Sort of know what Chelsea are like at the moment, especially because Badiashile. I don't know if Fafana will probably be back in the next game, so maybe that might kind of impact them positively. So maybe that could be like kind of what you hang your hat on, which obviously sounds like a really stupid sort of moot point almost, but it does maybe feel like one where the partner next to Chalobah may make all the difference defensively for Chelsea. Pick your poison, choose your own adventure really on Semenyo, because like selling him at this juncture feels like it just frees up a hell of a lot of money, whether it's getting Szoboszlai like we're both sort of looking at by the sounds of it. But one more week and then Rodgers is kind of right there, who's going to again be a very like for like sort of swap, plays 90, slightly cheaper, and there were eight wins in a row or something like that, I think it is.
League, yeah.
And then they embark on a really good run of fixtures all the way up until Christ, I don't even know. I think it's wild actually when you look at their, because they play Liverpool and City. I think they've got Liverpool and City at the very end, 37 and 38. So that's two toughest fixtures in the league right at the end. So they feasibly, if you bought Morgan Rodgers next week, he could be in your team all the way into game week 37 feasibly.
Yeah,
I mean, that is something to consider.
That is something to consider,
as an investment pick. So you don't have the problem I do, where I've got to kind of think, oh my lord, I'm not going to have Cunha against Wolves. You don't have to deal with that. I've got to deal with that. You haven't. I wonder with my Sam hat on, whether the best thing to do is just kind of wait a week and then just buy the best long-term investment which is on the table, which probably might be someone like a Rodgers.
Yeah, I like that. I hadn't honestly considered that until we started podding tonight, so I'll look into that. Rodgers for me was a player I was looking at as a Cunha replacement in a few weeks. So would have waited a little while. I was going to get to him, but actually, starting from next week might not be a bad shout to bring him in there. Szoboszlai, you can kind of get I'm sure I'm giving off the sense that I'm not like over the moon about bringing him in. He just ticks a lot of the boxes. It's penalties, it's 90 minutes, it's Liverpool, good fixtures, and it's cheap enough that it would give me that money to like jump up to Gabrielle from either O'Reilly or Lacroix in a week or two's time if needed be, and also get to an Everton defender at some point too pretty easily. So that was the reasoning behind Szoboszlai, but I think waiting a week and just going to Rodgers, it does sound more interesting, honestly. Yeah, maybe you're right. A lot will hang on whether Timber's fit or not, because if he's not, then I've got another whole big problem to think about. Yeah,
I'm just, I don't know, man. I'm just like, objectively, I can see all the pluses for Szoboszlai. I completely understand why people are interested. I completely understand why there's a groundswell, perhaps now he's back fit, and there's obviously the tone up back from suspension, and that's all great. But I can equally imagine with him, which I wouldn't imagine with Rodgers, despite their XGI being very similar per 90. I can equally imagine with him being sat here in 4 weeks with him having 8 points. And I don't really, unless there's like a penalty in there, I don't see that with a player like Rodgers. And then the longevity of the pick with Rodgers, I don't know. It feels like kind of, if Semenyo is the way to do it, then maybe you give Semenyo another week and then you kind of just go from that point, because it's such a nice like transition between the two. So yeah, I mean that's my plan. I think my plan A is just kind of just leave it this week, and I've got bigger exposure than you almost, and you feel like it feels like you're kind of a step ahead. So I wouldn't be. If I was you, I just kind of forget about FPL until next year, and just kind of leave my team and just kind of go off and get drunk every day.
Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah,
until next, just leave it for next Tuesday. Just leave it after next Tuesday. Let the deadline happen and just forget about it.
Yeah. So do you reckon Timber's fit? Do you reckon he'll be okay?
I don't. I mean, from the red grapevine, the feeling is that he just was given a full rest because his load was in the red zone, and obviously he played the full 90 against Crystal Palace as well. Didn't have a problem in that game, but I mean, I think that the options were, and they were good enough to play Brighton. Obviously, we did lose Calafiori, but the options were seen as being good enough to kind of just deal with the Brighton threat. Mostly we did. It was just kind of the goal was a rebound, sort of a save, and all this sort of thing. So yeah, I think you're probably going to be all right with Timber, honestly.
Okay.
So yeah,
that would be nice.
Yeah, I'll probably leave that as it is, honestly.
I don't want to sell him before he scores me a goal. I feel like I know it's sunk cost, but him and O'Reilly, I feel like they owe me. Like I do really feel like one of them at least needs to get me a goal before I ship them off. But yeah, it might not work out that way. Anyway, enough talking about my team. Let's move on to the guy sat inside the top 100k at the moment.
Not until I think I'm outside the top 100k after bench wankery, but yeah. So my feeling is I'm going to leave it this week. Have the adverse Semenyo a game against Chelsea. I think I'm at the moment. I'm between playing Hincapi and Wilson. I think it is. Probably will play Wilson because I haven't got any. I haven't got any Palace players, so I might as well do that. But I probably will play that, and then next week swaps menu over to Rodgers. I mean, I've got loads of players who have got adverse fixtures. So I've got O'Reilly who's got Chelsea at home. Could be an excuse to get rid of him? I've got Wilson who's got Liverpool at home. It could be an excuse to get rid of him. And it could be Hincapi's kind of at the end of his run in my team. He's got Bournemouth away that week, so I'd be happy to play him. But I could have an excuse to get rid of him as well. There's going to be lots of kind of applications for that second free transfer in game week 20. One of which will probably be to buy Rodgers and just leave him in my team all the way into game week 37. I think that I'm really interested in doing that, honestly. That is like kind of the culmination of all you taught me, maybe, Sam. Just buying a player and just being like, right, okay, see you later, mate. And then imagine like Rodgers, Bruno Fernandes, Saka as a free midfield, as a midfield trio. Assuming Saka plays kind of starts every game. That is like Sam heaven, isn't it? And that's what I want going forward, right? So yeah, I think that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I was interested in buying Szoboszlai, but only for kind of like, oh, should I do something now? But I'm trying not to kind of fall prey to the action bias. So I think I'm going to leave it. And I think I'm going to just kind of basically content myself over the next couple of days, deciding, do I start Wilson or do I start Hincapié? I think I've got Wilson on the pitch at the moment, and I've got Hincapié on the bench, and I think that might be how I go with it. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with the side. So Raya in goal, so I'm not too worried about benching the old Hincapié. I've got Chow. Yeah, they're annoying, but Burnley away, and they only conceded obviously a worldie from Dorgu.
Yeah,
Parko and O'Reilly. O'Reilly's got to play, hasn't he? Midfield Wilson, Semenyo, Saka, and Foden up front. Ekiteke, Thiago, and Haaland. I think that's all right. I think that would be fine for this week. It might not be a green arrow. It may be that I've got. I think the main differentials are going to be again Chow, and I don't think O'Reilly will be. I don't think Tarko will be differential anymore. I'm sure people might kind of look at bringing them in. So it maybe I go into it again with one differential, hoping that Chelsea and Palace concede, but. I mean, I'll be fine if I get a grey this week, I think. But keeping my powder dry with 1 free transfer is going to be absolutely fine with me.
Yeah, it's always a positive. It's always a powerful week to be able to roll. If you're fairly well set up, you can just tread water for a week if you need to. But I don't think this is a tread water kind of side. I think you've got plenty of firepower there to still rise if things go your way. I think Everton will get more popular defensively, but they'll be far from template next week. I mean, they're like 25% effective ownership between all of them at the moment. So maybe they get up to 40, 50% at worst. I think you'll be fine there. Chiao, not many Newcastle defenders are picking up that much ownership right now. So you'll have pretty good exposure to that. Yeah, I like it. I think you're looking good. Not many people have the triple striker combo of Haaland, Thiago, and Ekitike, all three of which are great owns this week. Yeah, I'm liking it overall. I think it's a strong week, and you can afford to roll. Give yourself a bit more power going into game week 20. Like it a lot.
Right, let's do it. I'm going to log out of FPL until the 30th. Cool.
I think that's a very good idea. And it's rare that I come into a pod thinking I can make 1 or 2 moves here, almost determined that I'm going to do those moves, and come out of it having been convinced by you to do less moves than when I went in.
What's happened to me?
What has happened?
Isn't it? It's mad, isn't it? Maybe the more that the less I'm kind of flailing around trying to gain rank, the more I do think like Pricey. So maybe your natural habitat is higher up and my natural habitat is lower down.
I wish that were true. I really wish that were true. Or at least on my part.
Yeah.
I would hope your natural habitat is also high up, but mine could do with being a little bit higher. But yeah, maybe one day. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. As always, we have been Who Got the Assist. You can find us on Blue Sky at Who Got the Assist, all written out one word. I'm over there at FPL Pricey, on X at WGTA_FPL, FPL Pricey on there, and on YouTube, it's Who Got the Assist, all written out. And again, I'm over there on FPL Pricey. If you did enjoy the pod, we'd really appreciate it. If you could, give us a follow on those social channels. Give the pod a 5-star rating if you're listening along, wherever you are doing so. And if you're watching along on YouTube, if you could leave a like, hit subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, listening. And if this is the final time, I suppose, you'll be listening to us before the new year. A very happy new year to you all. And hopefully 2026 brings lots of green arrows with it for you.
Yep. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being with us. That's it for this calendar year. We'll be off the airways until Sunday, the 4th of January. Happy New Year. All the best for the next couple of weeks. And we hope we assist you in 2025.
Oh, it's a goal. Who got the assist?